Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Thilaganathan and I'm a global MBA student at Imperial.
Hi, Jessica. I'm Carol Proper. I'm a professor of economics in the Department of Economics and Public Policy here at Imperial.
Could you give us kind of three tips or what your key advice would be to people who are maybe quite early on in their career and just starting out?
I think sometimes you get yourself in a situation where you think that your strengths are not valued. I suppose I sort of thought that when I started in academia, since I'm not kind of a typical quiet, retiring, deep thinking economic theorist, which at the time I started in economics was very much the kind of model. And there were people like that who are super smart and win Nobel Prizes. And so I thought that some of my organizational ability and some of my sociability were not really wanted. So I spent quite a few sort of years trying to be kind of quiet. And I think that was a I mean, obviously they crept out because one's personality does creep out. And so I think I'd say believe in yourself, but more to the point, play to your strengths because you have strengths, you've worked on them, you know what they are, play to them. And that means in part selecting things that obviously fit with you, in your chosen métier, people come in different shapes and forms, and you bring something to an organization with the shape and form you have.
So, what is your perspective on how to break the bias, which is the theme of International Women's Day this year?
I think there's some great things that have gone on. For example, the chemistry department at Imperial, when they interviewed women when they interview women for posts and they don't appoint them, they still keep in touch with them so that they can kind of follow, because the people are very good. It's just there's only been one slot or two slots, a limited number of slots, and they keep in touch with them with a network. And it's important to have networks. I mean, my own academic work at the moment is looking at networks in certain contexts, and clearly we all know networks matter. And it's important for women to have women's networks, I think, just as it's important for people of colour to have those networks as well. What's not fair is how people of colour are treated once they get to a certain level. And I think we really need to address how to get through the glass ceiling. There's talk about it, but it hasn't been systematically addressed. And of course, there's also the issue of glass cliffs, where I think people are appointed to jobs because they have certain attributes, and those jobs may not in the least be suitable for them, or they may be set up to fail. And I think we can see examples of those in many organisations, and those two things really need to be on the table, and they really need to be addressed by organisations head on.
That's some really insightful information. I definitely think there's power in networking and women supporting each other as well to help tackle these biases moving forward. Before we wrap up, what would you say is your kind of key take home message for people perhaps looking to get into academia or these positions where there's not a lot of women in the industry already?
I think entry into professions is much easier now for women, and there are much more support networks. But what's more difficult is when women want to break through that glass ceiling. And you can see that across Europe, and that when women do break through that glass ceiling, a lot of negative adjectives are used about their style and behaviour. And I think they either end up wanting to please everybody too much, and I think we can see that in excessive loyalty perhaps to organisations that aren't loyal to them, or excessive support of colleagues whose behaviour has not been good. We really need to get people to understand that women who are at the top of organisations, women who are powerful, they are people like other people. They have strengths and they have weaknesses, and they should be allowed to get to those positions.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear your passion on the topic as well, and thank you for your time.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure, and a pleasure to meet you, and I hope that maybe I'll meet you in person at some point.